Flights of fancy.
Knowing all these things about how flight has affected us beneficially and culturally are important if you plan on doing something with your interests in the future. Having an idea of the power you have is a good place to start.
But if you don't know all the other innovations and new ideas available in the field of flight, we'll just be stuck going round in circles.
So in this episode, we plan on showing you how else we can fly in the hopes of aiding you with a creative starting point for your interest.
Thing! 0.5. Whoosh.
Really, Finn, is that necessary?
Of course it is, Jay. It's 2016. It's officially the future.
Actually, that's kind of the topic our video is about. So many new ways of flight have cropped up over the years.
Things like hoverboards and maglev trains, drones, space stations are fairly recent innovations.
Flight has grown from simply getting off the ground and expanded into so many other things. So many things, in fact, that the concept of flight is incomprehensible to what it once was.
So in order to discover all the new ways of flight, first we have to define flight.
Googling this turns out to be the most pointless thing ever.
Obviously these are incomplete or at the very least unsuited for our needs.
Obviously we don't have flapping wings.
But we can gather a starting point at the very least using this definition along with a host of others. As well as a lot of debating, we've decided on this one from the Free Dictionary.
The motion of an object in or through a medium, especially through the Earth's atmosphere or in outer space. This allows us to have a broad but definable area to work with, that while including older styles of flight, incorporates our newer models.
Thing 1!
Finn, get off the hoverboard.
Never!
Alright then.
No!
Come on, we've got a video record. We can get it back later.
Fine.
Hover technology is an incredibly recent advancement in flight, and besides being incredibly cool, has many benefits, like running on electrical power and higher top speeds for vehicle use.
That makes no sense, Jay. Care to explain?
The first one is fairly obvious. Well, once you understand how hover tech works. Most examples of hover technology work off a thing called the Meissner effect, and supercooled superconductors.
In terminology that won't blow your brains apart,
A superconductor is any material that when cooled to a low enough critical temperature experiences no or less electrical resistance.
so any energy put into it has an easier time going through.
However, once this energy enters the conductor, the Meissner effect begins, and the superconductor itself begins to generate a huge amount of magnetic force.
Returning to our previous point, this means that hover technology runs almost purely off electricity instead of fossil fuels generating electricity.
The second benefit runs off the fact that if you could contain this magnetic energy and run it sideways, it could achieve incredible speed due to its frictionless track. This is also the principle for maglev trains.
Thing 2!
You know what I said in the first episode, Finn?
What did you say in our amazing, creative, informative yet interesting first episode found on all the good YouTubes?
You're not even trying anymore, are you, Finn?
Nope.
Anyway, you know what I said about telling me when I could nap in space?
Yeah?
Well, we're nearly there. Commercial and long-lasting trips to space are one of the largest emerging industries to come from flight.
It's still very much in its early stages, but it is being forwarded by many private companies, as well as some governmental groups.
There are two types of commercial space flight: space tourism and those who wish to use it for actual transportation. They both have negatives and positives.
One of the first issues is that it is extremely expensive, as most of the shuttle launches end up leaving parts of themselves behind, and it isn't self-sufficient.
Due to this limiting factor, people were forced to come up with creative ways to get around this.
Some groups, like Virgin Galactic, chose to make their entire shuttle reusable due to advancements in aeroscience. But other companies who were more interested in space tourism did not.
Here's a picture of Virgin Galactic spacecraft. Those companies went for a more traditional design, but upgraded it to allow for a much higher weight capacity. The issues with these, however, is that, like older models, abandon things like fuel pods and the main rocket along the way.
Earlier this year, SpaceX managed to land their Falcon 9 rocket after a trip to the ISS on its designated drone platform.
This may seem unhelpful as only one part of a larger machine, but it is $60 million cheaper to refuel a previous rocket than build another one from scratch.
Commercial spaceflight is in its infant stages, and it is in a position similar to the Wright brothers themselves all those years ago.
But with competition and new technology, who knows, maybe one day we'll all get to school on a rocket. Flight is already moving at an incredible speed. It's becoming, and some would argue already has become, a much more personal and valuable part of our lives.
We are always going to be moving forward when it comes to flight. The fascination is very likely to never stop, but instead mature and evolve over time.
If you are truly fascinated by flight, this is something very valuable to you. Take these examples of what others have done and push them in any direction you want.
As always, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Flights and Fancy. If you did, feel free to leave a like. We'll see you again soon.